Hello and welcome to Monday's Granada Reports.
Hello, on the programme this evening.
The race to save Zoe's place. The Liverpool Baby Hospice must raise £5 million in less than a month, all so they can continue to be a lifeline for children like Jude.
If Zoe wasn't here, I don't know what the future would hold for Jude.
An inquest hears that paramedics couldn't tell whether a neglected disabled woman found dead in a filthy bedroom in Blackpool was female or male.
They ask me every day about him and when he's going to come.
Another family pulled apart by war, hoping to soon be reunited on safer shores.
All 4 major trophies in 1 year. Unprecedented.
Wigan Warriors make it a rugby league clean sweep. The history makers join us in this studio with their silverware.
And hopefully you managed to catch a little bit of brightness today. The outlook, however, is rather unsettled. I'll have all the weather details later on.
Well, we start tonight with what can only be described as the mammoth task facing Zoe's place, the baby hospice founded in Liverpool more than 30 years ago, which has found a place in the hearts of so many.
Yeah, in order to survive and to continue to serve those children who need them the most. The team there will need to raise £5 million in less than a month. The money will help to build a new facility, which will mean the hospice can stay in the city.
We'll soon be live at the hospice along with celebrities who've pledged their support.
But first, our reporter Anna Yosef spoke to one family who say they're praying that Zoe's place survives.
Which one should we choose? Should we go with Dear Zoo?
This is Jude's classroom at Zoe's place. The 4-year-old has a rare genetic condition. His needs are so complex he wouldn't be able to attend any other kind of school.
He has epilepsy, he's non-verbal, he's fed via a tube in his stomach, he suffers with prolonged apneas with his breathing, he's got a visual impairment and he's non-mobile as well.
Zoe's place is one of only 3 hospices in the UK specialising in babies and children under 5. It offers respite and end-of-life care as well as support for the whole family. But the current lease on this building is about to run out. Last week, families and staff were told it would have to shut its doors by the end of the year after plans to move to a new purpose-built hospice fell through.
The only way I can describe it was when we got that call on Monday, I felt like that someone had just told me that someone had lost their life, because it's like a wave of grief.
If Zoe wasn't here, I don't know what the future would hold for Jude for his care, because it's also, as parents, it's that trust element with him, because he's so unpredictable in what he does. But they don't just care for Jude, they care for us as a whole family. We just pray that the service stays here because it's needed for the now and it's needed for the future children as well.
While the shock announcement means 41 staff now face losing their jobs, it's clear their priority remains the families they care for.
Obviously on Monday they were devastated at the thought of they were potentially losing their jobs, but they were most devastated that they wouldn't be able to provide a service for the families. Their main concern was actually, what are these families going to do without us?
How have you come to this point?
As an organisation, our expertise is looking after sick kids. It's not building buildings or developing buildings, and I think everything took a lot longer than we expected it to. And the economy has not helped us either. You know, everybody knows that the cost of living has gone through the roof, inflation's gone through the roof, and the cost of our project went up, and the cost of running a hospice is continuing to rise. So everything has taken longer and cost more than we expected it to.
The original project was costed at £3.5 million. Now they need £6.4. You need to raise £5 million in 3 weeks. How realistic is that?
We know it's an enormous challenge, and this is why we came to the point where we didn't believe this was possible, and this is why we went to the point of saying that our only option was to close. The response from the community has been far bigger than anybody expected. It's been enormous, and we're certainly not there yet, but we believe we have a fighting chance with the support of the local community.
And judging by the outpouring of support and fundraising that's already underway, this is a community that will fight to keep this service going for the children and families who depend on it. Anna Yosef, ITV News.
A lot of very anxious parents this evening. Let's cross live to Zoe's place and our reporter Jennifer Buck, who's there with a few famous faces and one special young man, Jen.
That's right, yes. Well, welcome to Zoe's Place, where all everybody is talking about here is fundraising. Now, this group of runners have just run down this driveway just a few minutes ago, and they are part of the massive fundraising effort to try and save Zoe's Place. There are a few famous faces in here, as you say, but firstly, and perhaps most importantly, let's speak to 10-year-old Anthony. Now, it was your idea to do this run. You've been running 2.5 miles from your home to here at the hospice. Tell me why. What's all this about?
Because Zoe's Place is important. It helped me and my mum look after my sister for many years.
So your sister was here. Just tell me the kind of treatment she got here.
They'd look after her. My mum would stay upstairs because how nervous she was. And that's it. She learned everything.
So how important is it for you and your family to save Zoe's Place for people like you?
Very important because,
It's important for everybody. So just tell me a little bit about this run. You've been running 2.5 miles every day. You've got quite a few mates involved with you today. Tell me about the run.
So you run past Crocky all Lane and then come in.
And what are you hoping? What are you hoping you're going to raise?
I don't know.
You don't want to know the location of the run, lad. You want to know why you're doing it. Come on.
Come on, you've got your friends helping you now. Tell me why it's so important, this fundraising.
To keep Zoe's Place open.
Okay. Well, let's speak to a few people who are helping you out in the background here. Paddy the Baddie, the UFC fighter. Paddy, why did you get involved in this?
Well, to be honest, Zoe's Place is the first ever charity that I ever done anything with. First ever charity I helped when I first started fighting. My school's only up the road, you know what I mean, 2 minutes away, card leaving. So Zoe's Place has always been here throughout my life, you know what I mean. It's helped a lot of people I know. And it'd be an absolute travesty if it went. It's a proper staple of the community. You can't let this go, so we'll do whatever we can to raise the funds.
Okay, brilliant. Now, Paul Smith, comedian, you were also running the miles with the lads here. Just tell us why it's so important you're back in this.
Well, as Paddy said, I got involved because a mate of mine, Adam, he told me the news that it was going to close down. Everyone in Liverpool knows Zoe's Place and how important it is. It's as Paddy said, it's a travesty if it goes. It's irreplaceable. There's nothing like it. If this goes, there's nothing to support these families and the kids that they help. So we all need to come together and do anything we can to make sure this stays open.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, these runs will continue. So they've got to raise 30 days to raise £5 million. Now that does sound like a tall order, but I think you can see the energy and the enthusiasm here tonight, and it sounds like they're well on their way.
Yes, you certainly can see that energy and enthusiasm. Jennifer, for now, many thanks indeed.
Yeah, it's gathering momentum, isn't it? It really is. And Anthony, you're a top man. Very well done for everything you're doing to help Zoe's Place. Well, next tonight, we should warn you that before we bring you this story, we should tell you that it does contain some very distressing content. It's about an inquest today, which has heard from a paramedic who couldn't tell whether a neglected disabled woman found dead in a filthy bathroom in Blackpool was female or male.
Debbie Leach, who was 24 and had Down syndrome, died in August 2019. Her mother, Elaine Clark, was jailed in 2022 for starving Debbie to death. She's refused to take part in the inquest.
Our correspondent Rob Smith joins us live now from Blackpool Coroner's Court. Rob, what's happened there today?
Yeah, I don't think anyone who was in this coroner's court today hearing those details could be anything other than distressed, so it bears repeating. What I'm about to tell you does make for very uncomfortable listening. The inquest heard from the paramedic who was first on the scene at Debbie Leach's house that day, called out, he thought, to a woman who had gone into cardiac arrest. The court was told that when he went into Debbie's bedroom, it was covered in her own waste. It was on the floor, it was on the bed, it was on the walls. He said it was clear that she had been dead for some time, was seriously neglected. And he said her body was so emaciated and her skin so damaged by an infection caused by mites called scabies that he couldn't tell whether she was female or not. Debbie's mother, Elaine Clark, is currently behind bars for starving her daughter to death and leaving her to die. Gross negligence manslaughter. The coroner said today that she was asked in prison to take part in this proceedings, and she said no. Among those who are taking part in the proceedings are neighbours and carers who said they heard crying coming from one of the bedrooms at the house. Crying they thought was coming from a young girl, crying that was fundamentally ignored. One of those carers said that when he went into the house to look after somebody else, he said the place stank of human waste. Another carer said that he was so shocked by Debbie's appearance. On the one single occasion that he saw her, she was so gaunt, he said he thought she looked like a skeleton. There was evidence today too from a social worker called out when one of Debbie's relatives raised the alarm, concerned about the care that she was not getting as far as she was concerned. That social worker couldn't gain access to the property the first time that she went, so she had to go back. And when she went in, she said that it was untidy, but it wasn't unclean. There was no clue, no hint that things were being covered up, no strong smell of cleaning fluid, and nothing about Debbie's appearance that day unsettled her. But she did raise the alarm about that scabies infection, an infection Debbie's mum spoke freely to her about when she realised, having read an email about concerns about that type of scabies, just how serious it could be. The inquest will resume tomorrow. There will be more witnesses here. The coroner expects to deliver his conclusion on Wednesday.
OK, Rob Smith, thank you.
Well, next tonight, a nurse who worked at the Countess of Chester Hospital with Lucy Letby has told a public inquiry that Letby told her that she couldn't wait for her first death to get it out of the way.
Yeah, meanwhile, another senior nurse and friend of Letby, who can't be named for legal reasons, says she can't understand how she was so blind about the child serial killer.
Well, Letby murdered 7 babies and attempted to murder 7 others between June 2015 and June 2016.
Mel Barham joins us in the studio now. Mel, the inquiry heard from 3 nurses today, and one was also damning about the way the Trust had handled things.
That's right, Vicky. We've heard a lot has come out from the hearing today, so let me just talk you through exactly what we have heard. Well, first of all, we heard from a nurse that we can only identify as Nurse T, who was one of Letby's mentors and a friend who she socialised with outside of work. Now, she told the inquiry that at the time she had no suspicions about Letby. She described her as very intelligent and capable, although sometimes she was quite aloof. Talking about Letby's crimes, she said, it's just so unbelievable. It's just so out of my sphere of understanding. I find it so difficult to comprehend that anyone could do that, deliberately harm or kill somebody else, never mind a baby they are charged with caring for. She said, I still sometimes wake up going, how can it be true? I know it is, but there are things that have come out in this inquiry that have reaffirmed that for me. I can't understand how I was so blind to it. Well, she told the hearing that the ward manager had clear favourites, and that included Letby, and because of that, had she had any concerns, she wouldn't have felt comfortable reporting them. Now, we then heard from another nurse on the ward, known only as Nurse W, who was highly critical of the way that the Trust handled events leading up to the criminal trial, describing it as abysmal. She said she only found out about Letby's arrest from a phone call from a family member, and nurses had to repeatedly ask for updates and information. She said the Trust were more concerned with protecting their public reputation than providing even a basic level of support to the neonatal team in crisis. And then finally today, we heard from another nurse who we can only identify as Nurse ZC, who said there was a comment that Letby made very early on when she started at the Countess of Chester Hospital that really caught her off guard. She said she told the hearing that Letby had said to her, I can't wait for my first death to get it out of the way. She said at the time she thought it was strange. It was certainly not something that she was looking forward to, but she didn't think it was sinister. However, after the deaths of 2 triplets near the end of Letby's killing spree, she did raise her concerns with a senior nurse about how Letby was always on shift when a lot of these deaths were occurring. But she said that senior nurse simply shrugged her shoulders and suggested she was gossiping. We heard it was later made known to staff that if such discussions took place, disciplinary measures could be considered. Well, the inquiry will continue tomorrow.
OK, Mel, thank you.
Well, to the rest of the day's news, and new legislation aimed at helping to protect venues against terror attacks is receiving its second reading before Parliament this evening. Martin's Law will require all venues with a capacity of more than 200 to have a plan in place in case of an attack on their premises. The bill is named after Fegan Murray's son Martin Hett, who was killed in the Manchester Arena attack.
A youth centre in Salford, which features on the cover of an album by the Smiths, is under threat of closure. Salford Lads Club has provided a lifeline to young people from the most deprived communities in Greater Manchester for 120 years. But rising costs and a reduction in grant income means the club will run out of money in 8 weeks. It needs £250,000 to keep its doors open.
We are desperately short of money. I think over the last few years with COVID and with the cost of living, places like this, like a lot of charities, we're all fighting for the same grants, and our costs have gone up alarmingly. There's always been poverty on this estate, but kids rely on this. Kids walk here, they are part of this community. You know, the working lads clubs were a rare, very unique kind of set of institutions, and to keep, you know, we get granddads coming here, people have got, young kids have got their uncles, their granddads, all these part of their family have come through this institution here. So to have this here and keep this going is absolutely essential to this community.
As an institution, indeed. Let's hope they can save it. Next tonight, though, to a family from Manchester who've been left divided by a war-torn Middle East.
When the British government recently urged UK nationals to leave Lebanon, Mahsen al-Dada felt she was left with little choice but to flee along with her 2 children.
But because her son's father is a Lebanese national, he wasn't allowed to join them. The family now face an agonising wait for a decision on his UK visa application. Emma Sweeney has this report.
Baba! Torn apart by a conflict unfolding thousands of miles away, with 5-year-old Saif, along with his 6-year-old brother Sultan, far too young to make sense of it all.
And he's just explaining to him that he has to go home because it's unsafe.
Up until 2 weeks ago, the family of 4 lived together in southern Lebanon. But tens of thousands of people have been killed in the Middle East over the last year alone. And amid a recent escalation in hostilities between Israel and Hezbollah, right now it seems there are very few places that are safe.
When I wanted to go to bed, I had to pick both my children up from their beds and put them in my bed to sleep with me. And I did that every day until I left and came here. Because I just thought, at least then if we were to get bombed or something was to happen, then at least we're in the same room, like they'll find us together. And because of like everything you see on the news with Palestine and like the families are finding like their body parts and stuff, so I was worried.
Are you okay?
Yeah. I don't know. Just like the fear of like when you have children, thinking about like dying with them.
As British citizens, Mahsen and the boys managed to leave Lebanon earlier this month on a flight chartered by the UK government. But the boys' father, Jad, couldn't come as he's a Lebanese national. He's applied for a visa.
They ask me every day about him and when he's going to come. And the day that we left Lebanon, my eldest didn't want to leave until he promised him that he would come.
For now, the boys are left to dream of that moment when they'll be reunited.
So he's asking him, like, when you come to the UK, what are you going to bring with me? Are you going to bring, he wants to eat shawarma.
Emma Sweeney, ITV News.
Well, let's see what's coming up on the ITV News at 6:30 with Mary. Coming up on the evening news, the inquiry into the death of Dawn Sturgis in the Novichok poisonings began today, and we'll look at whether she was caught in the crossfire of an illegal, outrageous, international assassination attempt. Sturgis was killed after coming into contact with the nerve agents in a discarded perfume bottle in July 2018. The Prime Minister unveils his plan to rip up red tape to boost investment. And the baton-waving robot conductor with perfect rhythm. Would you join me for those stories and more at 6:30?
I was going to say, we won't be laughing when robots take over our lives. Seriously. It's
We
gonna
certainly
happen.
won't.
Terminator, Skynet. Anyway, on to sport now and a bit of rugby league history for Wigan Warriors. They've done the quadruple, Chris.
They have indeed. No club had ever won the World Club Challenge, League Leaders Shield, Challenge Cup and Super League trophies in one season. Until now, Wigan completed the set thanks to a narrow 9-2 victory over Hull KR in the grand final at Old Trafford. And today, after one or two celebrations, they brought their whole collection into our studio. Gents, congratulations. All 4 trophies in one calendar year. Never been done before. Matt, what does it mean to you?
It's amazing. It's been a very surreal weekend. To see them all here even feels surreal. Proud of the players and very proud of everyone at the organisation. There's a lot of people within the club that have to be doing a decent job, you know, for us to have this success.
And Liam, you've been at the club since you were a boy. You've been captain for the past 2 years. Did you have any idea when you took over as captain that this kind of success was possible in the next 2 years?
I didn't know. To win all 4 in 1 year, I didn't think it was doable anymore. I didn't think teams could do it just with the level of competition, and just to win one of these trophies in a year would be deemed as successful, but to have all 4 at once is pretty surreal, and it's sort of a situation I've never been in myself.
For you and the team before the game, didn't you, with Sir Alex Ferguson turning up to give a team talk? What was that like for everybody?
Yeah, it was perfect. That's the best way to put it. I think with what we were trying to achieve, you know, winning all the trophies that are available to us, and the fact we were playing at Old Trafford, he was the perfect person to walk in a room, and I've never seen the players react the way they did. His presence was unbelievable, and what he spoke about really struck a chord with the group as well. So yeah, a privilege.
So you've done something that no team has done before in the Super League era. Everyone's going to say that your team is the best ever. Do you feel like that's fair? You've seen a lot of Wigan teams down the years, you two.
I think that's quite a hard one to answer. There's been some very successful Wigan teams over a long period of time, and
to come, not least because you're expecting a baby anytime soon, aren't you?
Yeah, anytime soon. I was just happy it got past the weekend, and we could enjoy the weekend, and then now we can look forward to that as a family.
Now the real work starts for you, doesn't it?
Yeah, the real work starts, yeah, so it's come just in time for my downtime as well.
And then next season, plenty more excitement to come with the trip to Vegas as well. Maybe you should take the boys out there for a bit of a recce just to get used to the place.
I think that's a great idea. We might not get them all back, but yeah, I think we'd enjoy it. Make a positive impression for Super League.
That is going to be a great moment for next season, but for now, just enjoy this moment, fellas. Huge congratulations again. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic achievement. Let's move on to the rest of the sports news. And Manchester boxer Jack Massey lost his world title fight but won a few new fans, including the cruiserweight world champion Jai Opetaia, who Massey gave a decent fight for a few rounds, but the Australian, who later said he had nothing but respect for Massey, was just too powerful in the end. The towel thrown in during round 6. In football, Morecambe finally have their first win of the League Two season. They stunned Barrow 1-0 away from home to climb off the foot of the table. A much-needed win for Accrington too. They beat Gillingham 2-1 for only their second win of the season. There were defeats for Salford and Tranmere, but Crewe held Doncaster to a 1-1 draw. It's still very tight at the top of the Women's Super League, with Manchester City still having their noses in front of 18,000 fans at Anfield. City went a goal down to Liverpool. Olivia Smith told us last week she'd visualised scoring at Anfield, and she delivered. But 2 second-half goals from Khadija Shaw, including an injury-time winner, rescued another 3 points. Just a point behind them are Manchester United after they beat Tottenham 3-0. While Everton finally scored their first goal of the season, albeit an own goal, to draw 1-1 with West Ham. And finally, to the football hero whose weekend walk raised thousands for an important cause. Joe Thompson, who's been diagnosed with cancer for a 3rd time, was joined by friends, family and football fans for a 21-mile walk, starting at Manchester United, where he began his career, and ending at Rochdale, where he finished it. The walk has so far raised more than £16,000, which will go towards a wellness centre Joe hopes to build in Manchester. Yeah, well done to Joe. What an inspiration he is.
What an inspiration he is indeed. And from one wonderful Joe to another, here's Shoes with the Weather.
Mum, wet wipes, toilet or bin?
Bin. Why?
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada Weather.
Thank you. Good evening. Nice to see some sunshine around today, and we're fairly confident that tomorrow will be a dry day too here in the northwest. It's feeling quite mild as well. From Wednesday though, rain's expected to move in, and it will be rather unsettled to end this week. In the meantime, today and tomorrow, high pressure just about controlling things, but from Wednesday the next system moves in, bringing some heavy rain through the middle part of the week, and another band of rain is likely to move in during Friday. Back to this evening, cloud thickening up for all of us over the next few hours. As you can see here, some fog beginning to fill in, particularly across parts of Cheshire, Derbyshire, the Peak District, that Transpennine spine and the Lakeland Fells before dawn. It's a murky old night, but milder than last night, 6 or 7 Celsius, no danger of any frost, and mostly dry before dawn, but a few spots of drizzle here and there as we get up tomorrow morning. The sun will be up tomorrow at 7:39, setting at 6:12. And it could be tricky in the rush hour first thing tomorrow on those higher routes in terms of fog. Gradually it lifts and it should be a generally dry start to the day with a few glimmers of brightness getting out through the course of the morning. Essentially a dry day for northwest England and the Isle of Man, and temperatures will feel the benefit of that southeasterly airflow. So we'll reach 14 Celsius, quite mild for the time of year. Looking ahead, and from Wednesday, it does become increasingly unsettled weather-wise for our part of the world. Bands of heavy showery rain will move in through the day on Wednesday. Thursday, a briefly drier and brighter day before more rain's expected to push in to end the working week. It is quite mild, though, throughout. Bye-bye.
Cleaned up well.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
What an inspiration Wigan are with all that silverware.
They certainly. I wish they'd just kind of left it all here, and we could have pretended it was ours. Couldn't we?
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day we'll get lucky.
Bye.
We'll see you soon. Take care. Good night.